Good day to you, spook friends, and welcome back to SpookBox, the podcast where three flatmates attempt to address the trauma of lockdown by spelunking their way through horror movies.
Yeah, we do.
I am Dav, your host for the week, and as always, I'm joined by Heather.
Hi there, everyone.
And L.A. Connoir.
Wow, where's my nickname?
I couldn't think of one.
That's fine.
What about just joined by one of the Heathers?
One of the Heathers from
that's
the
okay.
movie.
Not bad.
That's
But
all right.
Heather doesn't even like the film Heathers.
No, but I don't know why. I need to revisit
I've
it.
not seen it.
That's okay.
That's all right.
Well, you have seen this week's film,
Well,
so
I suppose I have, yeah. So that's a big help. And speaking of which, we are looking at the 2005 film The Descent, directed and written by Neil Marshall. Guys, before I hop into a summary, I wondered, did we watch the film? Did we enjoy the film?
Did you watch the
Did
film?
you watch it?
at this point in the year, in the sanity or what little of it people have left, like I think it's a good question. Like, did you
Did you do the thing?
are you okay? Did you watch the
Yeah.
film?
Did you manage to do
We
the thing?
did.
Oh, yeah.
We certified did.
I actually
Um,
watched it twice.
You watched it twice, Connor, so that means you should go first
Sure thing.
with your thoughts.
Yeah, no, so I watched it first time, and okay, so spoiler warning from this point on, we're going full spoilers.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about the entire film. So yeah, if you haven't seen it, then do go and watch it.
Go
Don't
watch
let
it.
anyone, as in the words of Roger Ebert, don't let anyone tell you what happens in this film.
Yeah,
After he talks about the film for approximately 250 words. So,
Well, I had that exact situation. Like, so the first time I watched the film, I watched it with you. We saw in this amazing venue called Our Living Room, which was very ambient.
One of the
and-
only thriving businesses
Yeah.
during
I
this
think so. Yeah,
period.
we've done
Can I
pretty
just
well from
say,
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
our living room is
Considering we've
like
got a pretty
gangbusters.
small
really
audience,
up there.
really. Yeah.
You can never get a seat normally. It's vibing in
So
there.
so I watched in Our Living Room with you, and the first thing you said to me was, "This is a film about mole people."
Yeah, that is the first thing I said.
So I was just on the edge of my seat
But
the
you
whole
already
time.
knew it was
And for that, I'm sorry.
filmed in Scotland, so surely you already knew it had mole people in it.
No. Honestly, I was waiting for mole people. I was a wee bit confused because it seemed, and this is my genuine opinion of the film as a whole, is that I feel that there's a really great film buried, pun intended, buried somewhere amidst all the mole people bullshit.
Yeah. And I am sorry that I told you there was mole people in it,
Yeah.
by the way.
What's your opinion of the movie on a mole?
On the mole.
Not on the whole, but on the mole.
On the
What's
mole.
your opinion?
What's my opinion on the mole?
We were quickfire with the jokes to begin with, but now I think it's
know.
just downhill from here.
Really? Oh my
so.
god.
Sorry. Hate to say
Wait,
it.
there's another one.
This conversation has hit the pits. It really
It
has.
has been. We're doing an evening recording sesh and we're like full of the vibes.
Oh man, you just keep digging.
And the
You
Heineken.
just keep true that.
Oh, this has collapsed.
we're out of rope.
This whole
We're out of
conversation.
rope.
We're out of our
Should have
depth.
sent a canary down first, shouldn't we?
I wish that was in the
Nice.
film now. I don't know.
Doesn't really work.
Like right, straight off the bat,
Off the top of the dome.
I got a really good energy from it at first, like silly energy, like Final Destination energy.
Yeah.
Knew someone was going to cop it in the first 5-10 minutes. It was just like that sort of
That's
like
true, yeah.
TV movie vibe. So up for that. Like, really was then impressed by it as it continued to set the tone of this trauma, and then it's going to be about a woman dealing with the aftermath of trauma, which isn't like the setting of a lot of films, or
Yeah.
not enough, I would say.
And at this stage, we should clarify that you did not know anything about any mole people.
Didn't know anything about mole
I
people
hid that
other
well.
than my fellow nationals of Scotland.
Oh,
Yeah. Sorry about that.
I'm a mole person, like I get it. You know, we get no sunlight. Like I feel an affinity with the
mole people.
with the mole people in this movie. I'm
You
like,
actually hunt by sound as well. So.
I hunt by sound. I have no vitamin D.
Socky Hall Street,
Terrible
hunting by
teeth.
sound.
Like I get it. So, but no, like the it was really disappointing when it took like a Xena turn, and I never thought that would be disappointed by
Like an
something.
episode of X-Files, basically.
Yeah, but I thought this was something else. I thought this was a movie about trauma. And then I started to try and remedy that tension and say, well, okay, this is still a movie about trauma, but it's about trauma related to mole people. What do these mole people represent? And it's hard not to think that in a film with like an all-female cast, the mole people are men, right?
Okay.
Well, we can get into all that. So the general consensus
Just gonna leave that
is...
hanging.
You're like, oh,
I don't think we
breath.
shouldn't give the
Okay.
game away. I think we should get into that as soon as I get this summary done. So
Fantastic.
the general vibe is
Meh.
meh and and then meh.
yeah, it's like a weird fusion cuisine. It's like a jalapeno marmalade. It's kind of like both
Yeah.
things on their own good
Yeah.
together. Why? You know?
Sure.
That's how I feel about this movie.
Banana pizza.
But I don't hate it. And maybe it's good for someone. So
Sure. All right, so let's jump right in. On their way back from whitewater rafting with her friends Juno and Beth, Sarah, along with her husband Paul and their daughter Jessica, are involved in a car accident when Paul is distracted. Paul and Jessica are killed, but Sarah survives. 1 year later, Sarah, Juno, and Beth, as well as friends Sam, Rebecca, and newcomer Holly, are reunited at a cabin in the Appalachian Mountains of North Carolina for a spelunking adventure. The next day, they hike up to a cave entrance and descend. After the group moves through a narrow passage, it collapses behind them, trapping them. After a heated discussion, Juno admits that she has led the group into an unknown cave system instead of the established cave system that they had originally planned to visit, and so rescue is therefore impossible. As the group presses forward with hopes of finding an exit, they discover aged climbing equipment and an ancient cave painting, the best bit of the film, that suggests an exit exists. Holly,
the Werner Herzog bit of the movie.
Exactly, yeah. Very well preserved, though, well, you got to admit.
It was
Wasn't it?
extremely well preserved,
Really well
but not a lot of UV light down there. So yeah,
We couldn't tell.
So then, how the hell did any of the cave people do that painting?
I don't think it was the mole people that did it. I think it was like,
But that's Connor's question. Like, clearly the mole people didn't do it.
yeah, but like,
Who was living down there
Like-
doing them?
And how
cave
could they
paintings?
see well
early
enough
Homo
to
sapiens,
fire?
and then they got,
Fire. There you go.
and then they got killed by
Fire.
the mole people.
I love the idea that one of the mole people did that painting last week.
There is an art scene in Scotland, Connor. I know you cannot believe that it. I know you think
Anywhere.
it's too dark.
Anywhere
I know
outside
you
of
think
London.
it's too dark, but like we have an art scene.
I just love the idea of a mole person being like, I'm experimenting with primitivism. Yeah.
Holly, believing she sees sunlight, runs ahead, but falls down a hole and breaks her leg. As the others help Holly, Sarah wanders off and comes across a den of animal bones and is suddenly attacked by a quote-unquote crawler, or what I'd like to call a mole man, a humanoid creature that is mostly blind and hunts through sound, like a bat.
Oh, I
Holly
hated that
is-
line so much.
Why?
Like bats.
Oh
You know,
god.
like bats.
You just don't need that that simile. Do you know what I mean? Or
You're already going like a bat watching the film. Because if you loved the reveal as much as I did. Holly is killed by a crawler. Afraid, Sarah runs and falls down a hole. There's a lot of falling in holes, where she is knocked unconscious. Juno, trying to prevent Holly's body from being dragged away, kills a crawler with her pickaxe, but then, startled and in shock, accidentally strikes Beth through the neck.
best bit of the film?
Oh, it's fucking vibey, isn't it?
It's
Vibey.
a shocker.
Yeah, it is kind of a shocker. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I think maybe that's kind of, I don't know, one of the sort of redeeming factors about this film,
Yeah.
in a sense.
I wanted the director to walk out from the side of the frame with that bit and like, yeah, you didn't see that shit coming, did you?
I did it. I'm so good.
That just
at
happened.
filmmaking right now. I'm nailing it. I think you'll agree, cast and audience. Beth collapses with Juno's pendant in her hand and begs Juno not to leave her, but a traumatized Juno flees. Sarah awakens to find herself in a den of human and animal carcasses, witnessing Holly's body being mauled and eaten by a group of crawlers. Juno discovers cave markings that point to a specific path through the caves. Juno locates Sam and Rebecca, and Juno tells them about the markings she discovered, but she will not leave without Sarah. Meanwhile, Sarah encounters Beth, who tells her that Juno wounded, then abandoned her. Beth gives her Juno's pendant, which Sarah recognizes as a gift from Paul, and realizes that Juno had been having an affair with Paul before his death. Beth begs Sarah to euthanize her, which Sarah reluctantly does by bashing her head in with a rock. Sarah then encounters a group of crawlers and manages to kill them all, falling into a blood-filled pond in the process and emerging covered in blood. Elsewhere, Juno, Sam, and Rebecca are pursued by a large group of crawlers. The group reaches a chasm, and Sam tries to climb across, but she encounters a crawler scaling the ceiling. The crawler attacks and rips her throat out, but Sam stabs it before bleeding to death in front of Juno and Rebecca. Rebecca is then dragged away and eaten alive as Juno escapes. Juno encounters Sarah and lies to her about seeing Beth die. After defeating a group of crawlers close to the exit, Sarah confronts Juno, revealing the pendant and her knowledge of Beth, as well as the affair with Paul. Sarah then strikes Juno in the leg with a pickaxe and leaves her to die as a rabid swarm of crawlers approaches. Juno is last heard screaming as Sarah escapes. And now, this next part, we get into sort of tricky terrain. This is there were two different endings. We, I believe, saw the UK ending.
Yeah.
What?
I'll just rattle off the first one I've got written down
I
here, the
didn't know
US ending. So the
this.
US ending.
Yeah.
Sarah falls on a hole and is knocked unconscious. She awakens, clambers up a slope covered in bones, and escapes the cave. After pausing to recover her strength, Sarah runs to her vehicle and speeds off. She pulls over to the side of the road and breaks down in tears. After a truck passes her, she opens the window, leans out, and vomits. Upon re-entering the car, she sees a hallucination of Juno sitting next to her and screams. That's the end of the US film. All of that happens in the UK version, which we all saw. So yeah, Sarah awakens in the cave. Blah, blah, blah. She awakens in the cave after her hallucination of escaping.
Yeah.
She sits up to see Jessica sitting across from her, holding a birthday cake. And throughout the film, we're sort of given these sort of visions of Jessica and a birthday cake. She smiles at this. The cake's fire is shown to actually be her torch. The camera slowly backs out as the crawlers are heard closing in on Sarah, revealing that she dreamt of her escape and that she is still trapped in the cave.
Okay.
I'd like to thank whoever wrote the Wikipedia synopsis for this film. That was great. Needless notes, but that's fine. That's fine. It's good for the purposes.
Was that all Wikipedia? Was it, or there was no? That sounded very daft.
I changed it. Changed a couple of bits.
A couple of key moments
A couple of key moments.
Right. Is there space for general comments right now? Oh, first.
Absolutely no. Well, okay. Well, first off, can we name all of the women?
Right. Yes, I can. That's
Juno.
because I'm a good
So
feminist.
we have the main character whose name is what?
Can I ask a question?
Sarah.
Can
Yeah.
anyone remember who Juno was in Greek mythology?
Oh, Two-Face, right?
No. Who is Juno?
I feel like it's maybe important that
I
she's
thought
called
Juno. I thought Juno was a Two-Face god.
She's such a standout character
I
from
know
all the
that.
others.
I know that
she doesn't really
Giannis
fit
is
in the
also
movie,
Two-Faced, but
right?
I thought Giannis and Juno were
Juno.
like just the Greek or the
Googling.
Greek versus Roman version of the same
Briefly,
person. No?
we have our research team on it right now.
Juno in Roman religion, chief goddess and female counterpart of Jupiter, closely resembling the Greek Hera,
Oh shit!
with whom she was identified.
All right, so goddess of wisdom.
her.
Is that it?
Yeah, I think Hera's goddess to wisdom.
Sure. Cool. So what do we think about that?
Cool. Don't know. I'll try and name all the women now.
Yeah.
So we have Juno, we have Sarah, we have Holly. That's three.
Becca.
Becca.
But you're
Charlotte?
just rhyming off names here. I don't think there's.
Oh, there's no Charlotte.
Where'd that come
God,
from?
damn.
there's
I was
no
thinking
Charlotte.
of Sex in the City because it got me thinking about other.
No, but there is a Samantha.
Which one are
Which
you?
kind of girl?
There's a Samantha. Did you already say Samantha?
No, I didn't.
Oh, there's a Samantha.
See, I was trying to think about like how
You're
I was
such a
like,
Samantha.
what can I compare this movie to in terms of how it
You're such a
portrayed,
mole
like
man.
female friendship? It's such a Juno.
Of the Sex and the City girls, I'm a mole man.
Oh, every time. Yeah, no, and I was just like, what other movies
Every
have I
time?
seen?
What other time could that
Every other time.
No, I just feel like in every situation, I'm like, I'm the mole man.
I'm the mole man.
I'm a bit mole man.
You know?
Yeah.
No, I was
What are you
just
saying?
thinking of other movies that portray female friendship to compare this one to, and the only one I could come up with was the Sex and the City movies.
So does this film fare well in that sense?
I feel like it does at the start, and I was interested to see where that movie went, but then as soon as they were in the hole, it obviously became less about the like characterization and more about the plot and the mole men. Mm-hmm. But I feel like the characterization was something that they were at least like vaguely interested in the first
I think
act.
that's true. I think we can all agree that there's a version of this film pre script notes
Yeah.
where there was much more of a sort of focus on
Character.
interpersonal relationships between the characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, I 100%
Because
agree.
they were all
But what if
very...
mole men?
Yeah.
You know?
But what if
Yeah,
mole
cool.
men?
But what if mole men?
Well, at first, I want to say as well, I didn't hate the mole men. When I saw it from far
Oh.
away and it was vague,
Yeah.
that's fine with me. When we got to see it closer and we could see that it was clearly a human mouth when it was like blah and stuff,
Yeah.
it was just kind of like silly
Annoying. Yeah.
and
It's,
annoying.
in that sense, I
you
think
know?
it does feel very much of its time. It feels like an early 2000s horror film to
Yeah.
me.
It
In that
really
sense.
reminded me of Mila Jojovich's Resident Evil films, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was sort of a zombie film, really.
Yeah.
And the color grading was very Rings, I thought. Before they go
Yes.
into the cave.
Yeah, the color grading.
The Ring, I
color
should
grading
say.
was off the chain, but I think some of those scenes will have been reverse lit. So some of those scenes will have actually been very bright, and then they'll have adjusted the black point and then tried to apply, because there's some of the very heavily red and heavily green scenes, the way they're shot in the film. I could be totally wrong, but
Yeah.
but it seemed a lot like, okay, those were just bright scenes that they then turned down.
Whatever the case might be with that, I do think that's one of the things I enjoyed most about the film is that as soon as I noticed how they would sort of seem to be coloring these scenes
Yeah.
eventually, these ostensibly a film mostly based underground,
Yeah.
I think that they used color quite effectively.
I mean, having said that, I think that then there were some. No, man, I'm going to give this film definitely a sort of 7, 8 out of 10 in terms of the color grading. I know what you mean, and it was quite good the way they use color, the way they
I
tried.
don't mean that they did anything at all with it.
Yes. I do know what you mean. I know what you're trying to say. And there were some really, really interesting attempts at good cinematography that were pushing it for the time, that were like really, really pushing what like CGI could do. We noticed this last night watching the film. There's some dodgy CGI.
Oh yeah, especially with I think I picked up on a few when people are falling, maybe.
Oh, it's awful. Yeah.
Even when they
Yeah.
had that first descent,
Yes,
into the
Holly's
mouth
first
of the cave.
descent. It's a
Yeah.
still image that they have
it's a real
enlarged.
stinker. It really made me wish that I was watching this on a CRT. Basically.
It made me wish I was watching Reboot.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's a good... What could have avoided this was when we got to that tonal pocket when we didn't know if the mole men were a hallucination or not.
Yeah.
I wish that had stretched out longer.
So you would have been happy without the sort of action scenes almost,
Yes,
It's exactly that.
where the mole men
Yeah.
are fully
Yeah.
lit and you can see that they're mole men.
Yeah.
Because I think
I don't
it's
want to see them.
I don't want to see that they're
I don't
mole
want to
men.
look at that.
Yeah.
Put that
it's
back.
set up that, I mean, look, they could have been star-nosed mole men, which would have been even worse. But anyway,
Or better?
Or better, maybe. Because why were they so humanoid? Like,
high budget.
for evolving
I reckon it might have been
underground,
budget.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I reckon probably synthetic caves are very expensive to make.
Probably more expensive than you
wonder.
think.
Yeah.
More expensive than you think. Yeah. Probably.
But the thing I was going to say about the cinematography there just very quickly is that then there are some scenes that are really striking. Some beautiful chiaroscuro shots. Now, and those are only the ones with Sarah. So
I'm thinking of the one when if you're watching the version that we watched, the hallucination when she escapes. I think I really like that
Yeah.
the cinematography in the part when she's climbing up the mound of bones. I think I
Yeah.
really
yeah,
enjoyed that.
yeah. There's some really gorgeous scenes with her, and those are very naturally white balanced. So her skin tone remains the same, you know, which is what makes me think that the scenes that are heavily red colored or heavily green colored are just all fixed in After Effects.
Sure.
But the scene I'm thinking about most clearly is her showdown with the female crawler,
Yeah.
where she ends up in that big vat of red porridge.
Yeah.
And then that's what colors her with blood for the rest of the film. It looks like there's a Scottish, it might be Scottish, a Scottish dessert that's kind of like eating mess.
Is it
Heather?
Cranachan?
Cranachan, yeah.
Cranachan.
It looks like a big bowl of Cranachan to me, but maybe that's just me. Too many raspberries from a Cranachan. But yeah, once she dives in there and she comes out, there's some gorgeously lit shots, and watching those bits, they feel like they're from a different film.
Yeah.
There's so many bits feel like from different movies, and you picked up on something, Connor, that the way that Juno is lit is seemingly different to other characters. Why would they do that?
Did I just hate the actress playing Juno?
Maybe you just thought the actress stood out in the film.
It just, every
Like her
time she was
acting style.
on screen, it just felt like a different movie.
There wasn't a lot of nuance.
But strangely, I thought, picking up on this idea
don't
of
know.
elements of the film feeling like they're from different movies, that whole film has, I feel like there's something kind of interesting in that. I think the idea of it being
Patchwork.
I think it's a joint Scottish, British, I guess, American production.
Yeah.
That wouldn't surprise me, yeah.
But I think it was. That's why the cast is largely sort of international, and that's sort of the element that I really like about this movie. That the world above the ground feels very different to the world below it.
It does, yeah.
Well, right, so the first question was, could you name the women? And I think I can name the women, but I don't need to prove anything to you.
Okay.
So there we
Quite
go.
a mole man thing to say. Very mole man.
Because I can't see you.
Very mole man energy. But moving on from that slightly, I have something to say about that. When we're talking about the above ground, below ground, those things being different, I have a thought about that ending. The wee scene at the ending.
God,
I was going to ask about the ending. What did we make of it? What do we think about the sort of the old switcheroo in the version that we saw?
Well, I prefer the American one, and
The optimism of the American. Well, I mean, I guess it's not the optimism, I suppose, but the idea that she got out
with the movie that we'd seen. Like, she emerges from the depths of her trauma, and is still traumatized, but has shown to herself that she can cope and is on her own now and is changed by the experience and escapes. And we get that shot of her hand, like literally coming out the earth, like she's been replanted. You know, like like that.
Doesn't she play a blinder in that whole escape sequence as well? She does some really weird stuff. Like as she's climbing down the mountain, she sort of like goes like, "Ah," for no reason. And I can imagine the director just going like, "Fuck, I didn't tell her to do that. That was very good. God, keep that one. Keep that one. That's great."
They actually that they were just filming her leaving the US at that point, and
probably
got it on film.
That'll
and
be
then
it.
they
Probably
were like,
filming her
use
leaving
that.
the-
That's good.
So
Leaving
that
the
said,
film, you know?
Yeah.
US version, she gets out, aka she overcomes the kind of trauma.
Yeah.
What do we think about the UK version having someone not overcoming the
Yeah,
trauma,
I mean,
or at least
that's-
hallucinating that they do get over the trauma?
Maybe we need to look at what was going on in the UK at the time, like why they chose that as the
Maroon
ending.
5 was very big in the charts at
Yeah.
the time,
Yeah,
so
that'll be it.
I mean, yeah, that
Really,
caused
really
trauma
makes
to
me
anybody.
wonder. I believe was in the charts at that point.
Maybe
Don't
like
quote me on that.
I don't know. Maybe
Killers were pretty big.
I don't
It's
know.
pretty big.
The problem I have with the UK one isn't that it lacked optimism, it's that it didn't make sense for the film for her to still be stuck in there, because I feel like a lot of the film was saying to us like she struggled, but she's going to prove herself, right? Like we were getting kind of cues towards that
But
we were
then,
also getting cues that her relationship with Juno was fracturing.
yes.
But what were
Yeah.
you going to say?
But this is when it seems notable that she, falls into the vat of, what did you call it?
Kranikin.
And comes out changed, different. She's painted red.
But even though she gets the change, she's still trapped. Like,
See, so that's my reading of it.
Yeah, so what's
I
going on?
think she does get out. In both versions, I think she's out.
Uh-huh.
And I think what they're trying to say is... I don't think that shot of her inside the cave at the end is meant to be taken literally. I think it's meant to be saying, although she escapes, she takes it with her.
I was wondering if it was something like that.
I think that's a fair reading. Yeah, I think that's my idea, is that you don't... There is no...
There's no escape from an
Or
experience.
she left a version of herself in the
as much as
cave.
it isn't a fairy tale ending in the US version anyway, because she sees this weird vision of Juno in her car.
But that seems like stupid as a final ending, because then it's like,
it seems
do you ever play the old Final Fantasy games? Usually you get to the very end and the second last boss is the nemesis that you've been fighting the whole game, and then the very last boss is just like, I don't know, just Satan. He just sort of shows up, just like, oh, I heard that there was a big thing going on, so I thought I would just say hello
Just pop in.
while I was in the area, you know, except Final Fantasy VII, because it's the best game ever made. The final boss is just Sephiroth with no shirt on, which is class. But no, in this it very much was like, you know, she was fighting these mole people the whole time, and then, oh, spooky Juno, end, credits. That's really silly.
Yeah.
I mean, or is it? Or does it actually make more sense? Because the person she's always been against is Juno.
Always been the threat, and there's the whole speech from Becca, like, don't trust her, beware of her. So there is some part of her, like, that's conquering Juno as well.
That was a bit of the film I didn't really understand. Was like, right, does this film pass the Bechdel test?
Yeah, because they talk about, like,
there's
caving.
more than 2 lines, but
They do talk about caving.
They
That's
do.
true.
They talk about
They talk about each other, don't they?
They talk about, I'm pretty sure they talk about the good old days.
Right.
They talk about Becca's, or they laugh at her pajamas. They
Oh
talk
God,
about
that-
having a hangover.
that laughing at the
bit
pajamas, that was
so
nuts.
weird, but I kind of liked it.
it was
because,
very Tommy Wiseau, wasn't it? Like, it was very...
right. I think it was weird because
Your
the
pajamas are
pajamas.
so ridiculous.
To me, the pajamas weren't bad. Okay, that's and I
Maybe
was
you have
sitting
a
there.
pair like
They
that.
weren't
I
that
have
bad.
pajamas like that, so I was sitting there like, what the fuck is wrong with the pajamas?
Clearly,
Like,
the prop guy went to go get the silly pajamas, and there was none left in Matalan that day. So,
yeah, and he came out with those from like,
Let's just go to the mum section.
yeah,
That's just fine.
and they're
it's
like,
fine. It's
anything.
fine.
you know, they're fine. Like the 2 Sainsbury's range is pretty good, actually. You know,
Oh, here, when we're on the subject of people laughing in this film, what did you think of the flippin' joke?
what? Oh, the lemon.
Ticklet citrus.
Citrus.
I kind of love that because I feel
I'm
like
here for
Scout leader people do that, and for whatever reason, that woman slipped into the role of like, I need to get you in the right mindset and get you out of your panicking, and I need
what's
to
gonna get you
distract
there.
you.
Yes.
And I think that's very characteristic of those kind of people.
Purposefully bad joke.
They,
I mean, it's not
they
just the
have
fact that
toolkit.
yeah, it's not just that it's a joke. It's just
Yeah.
that it's a sort of a bad joke. It's
purposefully
I,
bad
I
joke.
liked
Purposefully
those
bad
moments,
joke.
and even though the pajamas were fine, and I was like shady, I liked the laughing at the pajamas. I liked the bad joke because they were like, you know, texture of the characters.
yeah.
Okay.
It seemed to just lessen and lessen as the film went on. And what I was interested in was these characters and what was
Right.
going to happen with them. And
mean,
then the mole people come in.
That really does just get back to what we were talking about. There is a version of this film left on a cutting room floor somewhere.
I
that
think
is-
we're
For sure.
largely in agreement that could this have been a good film without Mole Men?
Oh, so good.
Kinda like the
Even
Could this have been a good
Jennifer's
film if
body
it was
problem.
just Could this
A
have been a
lot
good
of things we
film?
didn't like about that. Or...
Mole Men, no fight scenes.
Yeah, I think maybe you're right.
Yeah.
Although-
no mole men, no fight scenes,
no,
or mole men.
lots of mole men, just them like crawling around.
Although-
Maybe give one of them a wee lick. I don't know. They have to go to sleep at one point, and one's just like, bleh. I don't know.
Yeah. Also, like, if you're in a cave system and it's dark, do you know a great thing you could do in your movie? It's just if people disappear.
Right.
Like, you don't have to have these action scenes.
The action was totally perplexing. It was, you know, why, where did these ice pick fight scenes come from? You know, was Jet Li just in the
know.
village at the time or something? It was totally mental. It does seem like it was very much a product of its time, like you were saying.
Definitely,
like,
yeah,
like
definitely.
you brought up something which was really interesting as we were watching the film. Is that it really does suffer from like mid 2000s Angelina Jolie syndrome. Like there's just
Yeah.
a butt ton of male gazy stuff chucked in there for seemingly no reason.
Yeah, like, obviously because they were concerned about attracting an audience to the
Yeah.
film that is important, which
Yeah.
is like the young male audience. And I guess that could explain why there's like this like sort of discord between
Yeah.
the movie as it starts and a lot of the shots we get later.
Yeah, and but it seems to be all directed at Juno. It's really strange to me. Like,
Yeah.
it's like every time the camera it goes to Juno, if you listen very carefully, you can hear the cameraman just heavy mouth breathing.
But I feel like Juno is a male character.
That's okay. That's all right.
Yeah, no, I just mean like, I still don't think they did it that well because like a lot of her like follies are acting with like this machismo of like, I want to be the first one to bag the cave. No, I just left the kit. oh, I dinged you when you were grieving. Like, a lot of it is
Can we
like
give
a...
a translation there for non-Scottish
Oh, sorry,
people?
I ditched you. Like,
To dingy, Scottish.
I just feel like a lot of her behavior, like, is a male character. Like, they've written this.
Sure, she does seem. I mean, granted, a lot of the characters in this film don't necessarily seem particularly feminine. It doesn't
Yeah.
seem like a feminine or typically feminine thing to go spelunking in a movie.
Yeah.
I guess that's even more problematic because she's the only one who turns out to be sort of duplicitous in any kind of way.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, no, there's something in that, I think, like how she,
Yes.
I don't know, isn't trustworthy, and they keep coming back to that. Like, there's something there, but I'm not quite sure.
See, that's what was my question about the Bechdel
Yeah.
test was, right? It
Yeah.
was actually luring you all into a very clever trap. Because the thing is, although the characters seem to be
Much like a
having...
mole man.
Much like... Right, you're going to stumble upon my secret identity and it's not going to end well for any of you. Much like a mole man, I've lured you into a trap, and the trap is that although the characters do seem to be talking, the subtext is all about...
Her dead
I'm
husband.
going to say Peter.
Peter.
Yeah, you're right.
Peter, that's him.
Peter.
But within that, I tried to find a movie that I could enjoy, which was that the reason, because the strong relationship that we see on camera is between Sarah and Becca. Like, they're the two that are bonded. It's Becca's arms she runs to after Peter's died. They're
Becca
the ones
tells a
that
terrible
fly
joke.
out together. Becca saves her from her anxiety attack.
Yeah.
They are like the closest knit out of the lot. They kind of have a dig at Juno. They're like, why the hell are we going out here to see Juno? So when Becca finds out when Sarah finds out what happened to Becca and she stabs Juno,
Yes.
I saw it as her avenging Becca,
Yes.
not Peter.
Right, bully for you.
So I kind of was like
Tell me
thinking
then-
that she was avenging her best friend. So then, in a way, this could still be a movie about female relationships. And I was like, I like that.
Yeah,
But
And you would have got away for it too if it wasn't for that pesky text.
which was that she was clasping Peter's necklace when she did it or something.
You saw me saying it before. I didn't even need to say it.
But we never see her relationship with Peter. Like, we see her relationship with Becca. So what about that text?
Well,
what about that?
I think that this is unfortunately my issue with the film is that I feel this was written by and directed by male peeps, wasn't it?
Huh?
Yeah, I feel like, I don't know, imagine a guy with Oakleys on the back of his head
Yeah.
going, you know what women really like? They really like men. And you know what?
Fighting over them.
They would fight over them. They'd stab one in the leg for them. They'd
Maybe
leave one behind beaten
it
by
would be
mole men.
me. Maybe they'd be fighting over
Right.
me.
Maybe they'd be fighting in like this jelly-like substance.
The writer's name's not Peter, is it? Like,
It's Neil.
do you know?
Which is the same thing as Peter, basically.
Do you know the name
Sorry.
of the man that directed Die Hard and I think wrote Die Hard as well?
What's his name?
John McTiernan.
Fuck off, is it?
I'll call him John McClane.
He took off his shirt to reveal a impressive set of muscles framed by a
An impressive
White.
9-pack. Yeah.
white
Funny that men
vest.
don't do the thing that like female fantasy authors do, which is like write the substitute in for themselves, but like drastically change the name. So they'll be like
Okay.
Rose de Fleur the Third, and
Yeah.
their name's just like Sarah McDonald.
Well, that's the problem with
but they're like, oh, so me.
that's the problem
real
with
me.
It's the real me.
male authors think that they're amazing already. That's the issue. That's why you get pablum like Tom Clancy, you know. Whereas I think his protagonist.
I will hear nothing bad against Splinter Cell on this podcast. Thank you very much.
What's your protagonist's name this time, Tom? His name is Com Clancy. And he's amazing.
There's also like the
Clom Tansy.
Carl Obe Now Scarred books, My Struggle, which I've always wanted to try read.
My struggle.
Yeah, he's
Are
the
you sure
Norwe-
that's what they're called?
Yeah, because
I
the
think that is what they're
actual
called,
Swedish
actually.
translation is like Mein Kampf.
Holy shit!
And they're these big chunky books, and it's just about
Yeah, they are called that.
Lord, he called it.
him struggling with life, but he's like quite a privileged guy living in Stockholm, and it's like I'm interested. People say they're really good, but at the same time, it's like, dude, get over yourself. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So look, that's my issue with the film is that I feel like there's a phrase. God, I don't. We might get taken off Apple Podcasts for me saying this. But no. Well, oh God, that as well.
Sorry.
We don't like Nazis. Also, I'm going to say a wee thing.
We don't like them.
Another wee thing here, and it's a Scottish word.
I just was making fun of Connor.
So, I'll say it right. Do you know the phrase that rhymes with bunt struck?
Yeah.
And it would be a Scottish term. Aye. So I feel like there's the male author of this wants a sort of, I don't know, male equivalent of bunt struck for all of these female characters, where they all seem to be like mourning the loss of this one super cool dude that was having an affair.
The most interesting thing about him is that he wore a turtleneck.
even
in 2005.
Even his like, words of wisdom was love every day.
Yeah, but then even
legends.
and her like, he was just a simple man. He was a good man. Even her dream flashbacks aren't of him though; they're of her daughter. So
it's true.
I don't know if like they're that bunch struck, you know, because she's not even dreaming of him.
I suppose.
So
is there something to that actually? The idea that we spend the entire film. One of the major conflicts of it is that we find out that Juno had this affair with Paul, not Peter, Paul.
so
Matthew,
different.
Mark,
Luke, John. But then really the thing that clinches it at the very end, the grief that she can't let go of is the loss of her daughter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there something in that?
So what say you of that, Connor?
I say of that, it's interesting. I like it. I like that idea of a familial bond.
Although to be clear, there's no development of any sort of.
Exactly.
They only ever talk about Paul. They never talk about Jessica. They never talk about the girl.
Somebody does say a wee thing about Jessica. I think Becca mentions something about Jessica at one point, but I think it's just somebody just says Jessica's gone. Oh, maybe that's just at the very beginning when they're still in the hospital. Yeah. She says Jessica's gone. Mm-hmm. But maybe that's the thing that she can never leave behind. So at the end of the film, where I maintain that she has escaped, and I know I'm reading the text against itself, but there really is nothing to confirm one way or the other.
Apart from the sequel, obviously.
There is
no way.
We have to do it.
No way. There's not a sequel.
Yeah, she made it out. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Apparently, yeah.
Oh, you see? Oh, I knew it. Brilliant. Okay, 100%. I knew there was a sequel because you had mentioned it before, but I didn't know that it necessarily carried on, and you told me that it was a sequel only in name. So
apparently, I don't know much about it. I haven't seen it. I've heard that it basically, I think it sits in the same kind of realm as the second Blair Witch film.
To be honest, I'm trying to find a sort of theory angle on this thing because I love film theory. It keeps me up at night.
Well, is she not over Peter because she can at least enact something to do with that? Like she stabs Juno, but she can't really get over the death of her daughter. And
because she
that's
can't
what's
do anything
remaining.
about it because she can't manifest that in some way.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. Sure. I mean, what is that? I mean, do we have a framework for that?
She also killed loads of mole men, so she killed loads of men. Then she stabbed her friend that hurt her, but she can't. There's no.
Is the little girl mole man?
Is the little girl a mole man? Well, if there had been a child mole man,
there seems to be endless amounts of mole men.
Then maybe she would have moved on a wee bit. To be fair,
maybe we should talk about the mole men.
Let's talk about the mole men.
How did the mole
Let's
men
do.
I also wanted to talk about just to put a pin in for later about the Irish character with our resident
Holly.
Irish person.
Yes,
just to see how.
Thank you for recognising me as Irish. It means an awful lot to me.
It's more about me than you, to be honest.
Sounds a bit about both of us, to be honest. Shit.
But
anyway, mole men.
Mole men. Wait, are we not talking about Holly?
Mole people.
Yeah, no, I'm putting a pin in that for after.
Oh, sorry. I think, never mind. The mole man thing.
You've got questions.
Is it a good twist?
What's the twist?
The twist is that there's mole men
It's not exactly
in the cave.
The twist is
it's
that
not
there's like
exactly M Night
an
Shyamalan, is it?
undiscovered species.
I'll ask this then. So, do we get much of an impression of what the mole men are, what their society is?
I think we do.
You think we do?
I think you get a good glimpse of the mole
I think you do. I think the idea that the sort of the mole woman comes after Sarah when the mole woman clearly has seen the fact that the mole man has been killed by Sarah.
Daft, it's mole person.
Yeah,
Sorry, mole person.
and Dav, I've just been watching way too much Archer. I need to stop watching Archer. No one else likes Archer. I need to stop watching it.
I like
But
it just fine.
when you said the mole woman comes after, I just needed to say phrasing, phrasing boom. But
Okay. So yeah, go on.
No,
tell
but
me
there
about mole man
is
society.
like a gendered mole person.
There was this notion of
are
like,
they the crawler
you
queen?
have killed. My reading of it was that you have killed my partner. You have killed someone who is significant to me, and I'm gonna get you for that.
Because she was like killing her in the Krenaken, like she wasn't
Yeah.
hunting her in the regular way, which is that they hang upside down on the ceiling. She was like
Yeah.
actively coming after her.
Yeah, there wasn't a sense that the mole man had to like, whenever they attack, it seems like they're attacking because of some kind of
Okay.
threat,
so do the
like
mole
territorial.
people have, like, emotions? Like, is
Sure.
that what you're
Do we get any sense that they're more than sort of a fox or a
Right.
badger? Badger man.
Badger man.
I just
No,
kind
I'd
of
watch that.
interpreted the mole person with hair as like the boss mole because it was like a boss fight.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure there was like
There was a kind of an
boss
arena.
music,
There was a
but
kind of
that
an
was in my
arena kind of
head.
sense. Yeah, I
It
get
was
it.
like in an arena, so I just thought like, oh, that's the boss mole.
No, I think I think you're totally
I don't
right.
know if there was any rhyme or reason to it. Just like there's no logic to a boss fight really, other than it makes you feel
Gotta
good
get the
after
boss.
you've done it, and you got
There's
to
a door
do
behind
it.
the boss, and the only way
It's
we're
all
gonna
about
get there.
timing.
No, I think there is a real glimpse of that there is some kind of society going on here, because I think you can see that there's these different feeding areas that they
True.
have.
Yeah, all the bones are in the same place.
They seem to have, so then they have this sort of sacrificial pit that they've been dumping blood into for clearly centuries, because there's a swimming pool of blood. So, I mean, and then there's the cave painting, which I think you would maintain wasn't done by the mole men, but I don't know, I think there is a glimpse of culture here. Now, cards on the table, I am a new materialist philosopher.
Yeah, so hit me with that.
So for me, you're given a glimpse of a complex society that is able to live in unison with the earth, with these creatures. It's like any evolutionary biologist would tell you that humanity is not the peak of evolution because we haven't found a way to live in harmony with the planet. Yeah. So we have evolved poorly. Whereas these creatures seem to be humanoid, they seem to be faster than apes. They have evolved to fit their environment, evolved perfectly, like bats.
Like bats.
According to that part of the film. But they seem to have some kind of culture. It seems to be a reverse harem sort of situation, which is called polyandry.
Do you mean in terms of there being many male counterparts?
Yeah. It seems to be polyandrous, where there seems to be one sort of queen.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe there's plenty of females there, but there seems to be one dominant.
Ants in it.
What was that?
Like ants in it.
Like ants?
Like a
ants,
hive.
Oh, no, I would think like bees, but
That's
Yeah.
what I mean.
yeah.
Sorry.
And so I actually, the first time watching the film, and the second time, I definitely had a feeling of like, what the hell gives these people any right to be?
Yeah.
Like, there's literally 8 billion humans on the planet, and as far as we know, there's a couple hundred of these yolks down in a pit. Like, surely they should be going easy on these things. I mean, obviously, if they don't make it out, then the discovery's not made, but I don't know, it just seems... I don't think you would make a film like this today.
Do you think today you would make sort of the complex society that the mole people have
I think you would
more
at least...
explicit, or would you...
You would at least write in one character.
There was a film like this today, or like
today.
last year.
Somebody
That
made it
that underwater one with Kristen Stewart.
Oh man,
The deep
remember
divers, and then they find that there's actually this like underwater society of like squid humanoids that are trying to kill them
that. Oh, they nuke
because
the
they've
crap out of
been
that, don't they?
digging
Did
in
it also
like
happen
a
in Shape of
trench.
Water, I guess?
No, he
Oh,
gets away in the end.
I never saw Shape
That's
of
a
Water. so-
romance film, though.
What I'm saying is,
Fishman gets away.
what if one of them just sort of thought, this mole man's different?
Oh, like this could have been Shape of Water.
This could have been Shape of Mole
This
Man.
should have been Shape of
Shape
Mole
of
Man.
Cave.
Shape of Cave.
Well,
Shape of weirdly red blood water.
Shape
Yeah.
of red blood water, yeah.
yeah. I suppose like the original like creature from the Black Lagoon that like Shape of Water is modeled on was like a kind of
horror.
no, but it was
A monster.
supposedly a monster that was seen as like an immigrant or somebody who wasn't native or like everyone there.
An outsider.
An outsider in a sense. So then in Shape of Water you get like a continuation of that in a way. So again it just brings me back to the mole people being Scottish and like no one wants to fuck a Scottish person. So I just don't see it working, guys. I'm sorry.
Oh dear, what on earth? No, I think this could have been Shape of the Mole Man.
Shape in the Mole Man.
Because if
Nah,
Sarah
dude.
needs,
So I'm intrigued by this idea that
Sarah
like,
needs a real
if
man.
one character, you needed one character to be sort of sympathetic, basically. You didn't have that at all in the film. No character
no,
was sympathetic
nobody
to the
pointed out
society.
at any point like, here, should we be at this?
Yeah.
And that really bothered me.
Right.
You
But they
know.
were women finding themselves, and that's important. We were like showing that we can be just as good as men, so we can like wreck this place
Right.
up.
It was a wee bit aggressively third wave feminist.
Yeah. No.
You know, second wave.
But that'd be
Second
fair.
wave.
That'd be earlier.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry,
No,
third-
it was second wave because I made that joke. There was a bit, and I was like, the moles are third wave feminism, like because it was so second wave in terms of
Second
like
wave. Sorry,
we can
of
be as
course.
strong as men.
We can
With
do
the
it
ice picks.
poster.
We
Yeah.
can do it, yeah. And it's
What's her
like,
name?
Zig a zig ah.
how about she just goes to a spa for her like grief? Do you know what I mean? Why have you got to like scale a mountain?
Yeah,
Just go for a wee
yeah. It's
CBT sesh
exactly. Second
and
wave
get your
feminism
nails
sort of-
done. It's okay to be a woman
It's still very much
or like
within
feminine
that,
things.
Yes. It was within that vein of still having a sort of capitalist myth of progress within their activity. That
It's like we can just be equal if we discover this cave
we
system.
conquer.
Then the men will like us.
That's a good point. I hadn't thought about
Then
that.
they'll
but
give
yeah,
us
but
equality.
Juno has an implicit, like an explicit kind of conquering.
She's
mentality.
trying,
Yeah.
she's
trying
like,
to-
maybe I'll get what I'm after if I prove myself this way, and
we colonize.
and then no one trusts her. So that, I mean, we're coming back to that. I mentioned that before. I think maybe that is interesting. It's like the most like second wavy out them all. They don't really like her and they don't trust her.
Juno, you mean?
Yeah.
Is it not Holly is the most second wave out of them? Because she's the one that runs ahead and that.
Oh,
It does seem to be kind of weirdly, simultaneously very pro second wave and yet also, skeptical as well. Because the more forward any of the characters are, it seems to be sort of inherently a teeny bit misogynistic.
Yeah, no, I see what you mean. It seems to be
Like,
like,
what you mean to say, lightly,
stay out the
nothing
cave.
good can come of being.
Don't stick your neck out too far,
yeah.
because a mole man will come and rip your throat out. And there's always more mole men, you know.
On this tip, actually, the Roger Ebert's glowing review of this film.
wow.
From when it first came
But
out.
I
4
thought
to
it
4.
wasn't
4
him
stars,
that
4 to
reviewed
4.
it because he was getting surgery and it was a stand-in
His
that
name,
reviewed
his
it.
name is on the. His name is on the thing. I mean, I can look it up. For you.
He signed it.
It's I mean, it's on RogerEbert.com, and I understand that they have many writers who write for.
Right,
Roger
okay,
Ebert.
so it
But
wasn't
his
him.
name is on it.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
I was misinformed.
He seems to. That is a terrifying picture of Roger Ebert that I've just pulled up.
Does he look like a mole man?
Worse.
This is the best portrayal of mole men, my people.
He seems
I've
to
ever
pinpoint Neil. He
Bias.
seems
There was inherent mole man
he
bias.
seems
on the part
to
of Ebert.
pinpoint Neil Marshall's constant shots of like penetration
Okay.
fed from his movie Dog Soldiers, which came out maybe like
Of
3 years
course he
before
did
this.
Dog Soldiers.
Is there something there? Because I mean,
What's Dog Soldiers?
I've never seen it.
It was the biggest film in my school. It was like
People just love that shit.
you had to like stay up and watch Dog Soldiers, or else you just weren't.
I really remember that.
boy.
Maybe like because I think I would have had friends who had brothers a few years older than me, and they
Indeed.
would have said the same thing.
Right, what was it?
It's just a film about
Werewolves?
soldiers. This camp, this like small squad of soldiers that are stranded out in the woods, and then they get attacked by werewolves, and then it kind of goes on that zombie turn of people turning into werewolves, and so.
My point being, there's
Action horror,
a couple of bits in the film where Ebert seems to think that there's something to the fact that people are a lot of what's her name, Becca, who's killed by Juno. She is stabbed in the neck by the climbing pickaxe, I guess is what you call it. I don't know what you call it. A lot of the mole men are also killed in the same way, and there's a fixation on the sort of
The neck?
entry. No, not the neck, but the entry of that
Okay.
pointy thing into the soft flesh.
Okay. I'm going to
Yeah.
follow this.
So I don't
first
know.
of
It's
all.
quite a visceral film in
Is
that
there something
sense.
to that?
So,
In terms of-
so is that not
Psychosexuality.
just
Sure.
a facet of them going for these like bombastic action scenes? Is that actually something metaphorical?
let's- that's what I'm
Let's put
asking.
it aside for a
Okay.
second.
That's what I'm
Let's go Lacanian. Lacanian or Lacanian? Which one do we want to go for?
Yes, please do.
Right. Okay. Lacan has entered the chat. So, right, if we're thinking about Lacan's...
Entrer le chat. No, that's the cat shit.
The
Whatever.
idea of sexual power for Lacan is one where women are said to be the power, as in the kind of aggression and longing that men have to conquer, to complete, comes from an inherent feeling of kind of initial almost emasculation that comes from knowing that you've been born of something that you can't be. You know, so women are sexual power, and men can have power but can never be power, which is what explains their kind of being so mental all the time. But then the problem with women is that women then are constantly being oppressed by men at the same time. Now, that's all straight off the top of the dome. Last time I actually read any Lacan was during my master's degree, which was now about 7 years ago, so that's probably wrong. But if we try to take that as, let's just say, my reading of Lacan for right now and try to look at that within the film, you would end up with quite an interesting and complicated psychosexuality, where you have these vessels of power entering into a situation that is beyond human psychosexuality, because they're entering into an inhuman world, an inhuman landscape. So these instruments of what is human power are then further being stripped down by oppression and having to kind of act in aggressive masculine ways through that kind of penetrative phallic order in order to reassert themselves against this non-human order. What does that ultimately amount to then? Does it kind of create a kind of transvestitism in the sense of, a character, the transvestite used in the same way that Laura Mulvey used transvestite, which was probably now
Like the women are using these ice pick tools in like a sort of
exactly,
like
a
phallic way.
order that they become hermaphroditic in a psychosexual sense.
Yeah.
Is that ultimately what comes to be? Well, I suppose if you think that Sarah ultimately reaches her pinnacle of power when she is able to, both be powerful but also enact power upon others, by penetrating Juno as she does. Well, ultimately what you're left with is a way of saying that as powerful, as being a woman, as being the thing that is envied and viewed and stared at and that is the vestige of power, but that the most powerful thing you can do is act in a masculine way. I don't really know if it's the most satisfying thing in the world. The only other thing that would possibly, be quite interesting would be the ghost of Juno that's left at the end, as if to say, which is the Lacanian bind that he kind of left off with, which was that, like, even if a man if a man was so driven insane with lust that he attempted to destroy a woman, to kind of take control of that and to become that which they can't be, that it wouldn't achieve anything. To say that Sarah's hermaphroditic in a psychosexual sense, person that she becomes in the end, that it doesn't really accomplish anything because Juno still haunts her. It's kind of interesting. That being said, I don't think anybody puts their phallus in anyone's neck. I think you might be doing it wrong, Roger Ebert.
I don't know about you guys. But...
Yeah, I always put my phallus in people's necks. I don't know.
That was me trying really hard.
Well, that concludes Lacanian Corner.
Thanks, Connor.
I tried. I really tried, but I don't know.
It was a valiant effort.
I don't know if there's a psychosexual reading of this movie.
Well, I'd like the part you said about them entering this like non-human space and then behaving in a strange way because there is a lack of order.
Yeah.
Like, does Lacan talk about a kind of, I don't know, like requirement for these orders and relations, or does he talk about the fact that they've just became that way? Oh God, this is going Jordan Peterson-y. I do not like Jordan Peterson. I'm just wondering, like, if the movie almost makes the case that without these ordered sexual relations, like, bad stuff happens. But it happens anyway. Yeah, I don't know.
No, I see it. I think I know where you're coming from. Lacan is much more like, look, this is just what we're dealing with now.
Yeah,
type of thing. I don't think he tries to relate it to any kind of biological. It's all interlaced into this like symbolic order. There's a wee bit of sort of almost uncomfortably like Jungian ideas of, shared lineage of these thoughts, but he is much more interested in. All right, okay, look, this is the way it is. What are we going to do about it?
Yes.
How can this genuinely be used to help treat people that are,
I think I have touched on something though, which is that Jordan Peterson would love this film. He'd be like, the woman, they go down there and then not supposed to be there. Of course they.
Yeah. He would say it in a much more subtle way. He'd be like, look, I'm not saying they shouldn't go there.
But look what happened.
Like what happened when they do.
They were.
I've gone to the Ben
They were
Shapiro.
inferior to the Molmen species who evolved for there. They didn't have enough Molmeninists, and so they all get murdered. That's the natural law.
You see that first mole man that got that? Yeah, he had depression. That's why he died first. Jordan Peterson, you prick.
Yeah, so it's a movie where like Jordan Peterson could weave his like snake oil fascism into.
Good choice of words. He's big into snake gods. Read his
Fucking
old.
hell.
Read his old.
Really?
Religious theory stuff. Yeah.
In which case, then maybe I don't like this film because of
I don't know
something.
if it is biological determinist, though. I think because as I was saying, like, I think there is this other order that the mole people have. I think that you're given this glimpse into a complex, other, a literal other. Almost a kind of a snapshot of like how could humanity have gone had the situation been different. Because they do seem very human and inhuman at the same time.
Yep.
I think the kind of the failing of the film is that they don't wrestle more with the biology of the creatures themselves. Which is to say, I think it could have worked had they gone more into the biology of the creature themselves, or if they had related the creatures just to someone's imagination.
I know. I would.
Yes.
I prefer the imagination
Yeah.
one because we've already got like the setup for that with somebody dealing with like intense trauma and
And I think there is a sense that
could have worked.
You watch this film and you get the feeling that as jarring as the presence of mole people is, it's probably a metaphor for something.
I know,
But
I thought it was men.
Yeah.
I think you might be right. To be completely honest,
Even though there's a queen bee one, like I feel like they're men.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I think you're right. I think we're on the cusp of this. And I think the psychosexual reading of this film would have something to do with there being powerful women, because these are men controlled by a powerful woman. You know, I think the idea is that Sarah does come out on top. You know, she becomes the new queen, even if she leaves. You know, she has shown that she has dominance over all of the mole men, over Juno, over the mole queen.
I just heard that and I was like, I didn't know that's a title I wanted, like dominance over the mole men. I'm like, want that for myself.
It's the Queen of
I
Scotland.
want that for me. It's the Queen of Scotland.
So
Lady Queen of Scots.
she's Nicola Sturgeon. You know, she has
Dominated the mole men.
I'm not Scottish, so I can't make these jokes. But you know, she does reach that top point, and I think, but maybe that's what the end of the film is that, you know, ultimately, you know, what do you get if you manage to achieve that dominance? Well, you're just left haunted by your own ghosts.
You've got no pals left.
Yeah,
Because they were either killed by mole men or by you.
Yeah, totally. But like,
because initially the film is so much about collaboration, you know, as they help each other cross the ravine and stuff like that. It's so much about collaboration, and they're so against egoism. You know, they constantly ask Juno, "Is this spelunking or is this an ego trip?" And yet, towards the end of the film, it seems to be that, well, it's kind of every human for themselves, and they don't care about the ecosystem. They don't care about each other. You know, even when she says, "I'm not leaving here without Sarah," it's because of her own guilt.
Totally,
you know,
and that's
doesn't
not
wanna-
really.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not a good motivation.
She doesn't want to abandon Sarah. One of the only selfless people in the film is the Sam. Whose neck gets ripped out, but then she kills one of them with like a penknife.
She's also the one who has her hands. Is it the same
she's
one?
the
Is that her-
doctor.
I think it's her mate has the hand.
Right.
The Dutch one, I think,
But
has
Sam's
the
the
hand.
doctor.
Yes, and she's the one who actually like sacrifices herself just to take out one mole man, which is a really perplexing scene to me. It's like, oh, thanks, you killed like one of these like hundreds of mole men. Like, cheers, I guess. And she doesn't.
And
even
we
kill her.
could have
Juno
really
has
done
to
with
finish
you
it off.
around,
Yep.
given you're the only like medical professional
Yeah,
that we
maybe
have in
just-
our team. Maybe don't
Maybe.
like.
Is she also the one that gives a sort of like brief read off of like the biology of
Yeah,
their
she
blind?
says they're
Yeah.
Well,
like
they're blind,
bats.
like bats. That's great.
I just wanted one
Because she's
character.
a doctor, you know.
But
Lovely.
Yeah, so I think with the sort of the, you know, you have this egoism seems to creep in towards the end, but ultimately it seems to be self-defeating. I think the film is kind of inherently misogynistic at the end because it seems to be saying there's no reward for anyone who tries to climb to the top when they're women. I don't know. Look, that's my 2 cents.
I think that the mole men are men because
And they're gonna win
like the women, yeah,
in this film, which is why I disagree with it. you
they
know.
have
Yeah.
their like society, they have their bonds to one another. They go down there, they're surrounded, they're cornered. The mole men also have built the structure of everything. And then it did remind me of like being a teenager in like a dark nightclub when like your friends winching a mole man, winching meaning to kiss.
Like the
You're
translation.
Which I
winching-
learned this evening.
You're winching a mole man, and then you're like, oh my god, no.
Not
and
the
you have to
mole
like
man.
knock it out and then grab your friend and knock their mole man out and like run into
See,
the next cave.
exactly.
That's
So-
what being a woman in a nightclub is like.
So then did
I've
it not
lived
seem
this,
totally
you know?
insane that Sarah would kill Juno or leave Juno for dead, because that just wouldn't happen? Like,
I,
I'm sorry,
you don't
but
leave
you know,
your friend behind in the
you
club
don't.
unless you're steaming. And I don't know if Sarah's
In a
a
sen-
wee
in a
bit
sense,
off
Sarah
her
was
rocket.
steaming.
She was, because she.
In a sense, Sarah was steaming
Ah,
ever since she went into
steaming
that
mad.
pool of blood. Ever since she came back
She
up
came
and sort of
after
went
coming
to the
out
warrior queen.
after a few shots out that pool of blood. She was like wrecked, and I think that's why she did what she did. She was just high off the power.
I don't know. I think there was once a great wee TED talk done on taking a kid to see Star Wars versus taking a kid to see Frozen. Or maybe it was Tangled actually, but basically the sort of the female-led Disney films, and it was the problem with taking a kid to see Star Wars these days is that the lessons it teaches are just totally useless. You know, to succeed in a Star Wars film, first of all, you need to be born a Skywalker.
Yeah.
You know, and if you're not born a Skywalker or a Palpatine or whatever, you don't.
You're not bound for greatness.
You're not. You're not destined for greatness. So sort of fuck you. You're kind of surplus to requirement in the Star Wars universe. The next thing is, you know, the way to solve a problem in the Star Wars universe is with aggression. So you need to use a blaster, you need to use a lightsaber, or you need to use your force powers. Otherwise, it's not, you're not talking your way to a solution in Star Wars. In the Disney films, the newer ones, they seem to have an ability to talk their way to a solution. There seems to be an attempt at problem solving beyond violence.
And it's also about coming back to your own roots and your own family, as opposed to like destroying someone else's.
Right. And violence is something that people enact when they don't understand what's going on.
I feel like this film needed, because you were going to ask, I know you were going to ask us earlier, what would we do to correct this film?
Yeah.
And I try not to criticize films unless I can think of a solution. And for me, the solution to this film was when the two main women are looking at each other, instead of stab leg, then reveal necklace, I think it had to be raise ice pick, reveal necklace. Juno says, I know, I'm sorry. And then, Sarah simply says, well, in a better way than this, look, I'm not a scriptwriter. It takes two to tango. I'm not really mad about you and Paul. I'm mad that I don't have my daughter anymore. Juno, I'm sorry. I'll always be in your debt. Let's make it through this together. And then they do, and they make it out together, and then you have actually achieved something. And maybe it's a bit hackneyed, but it shows that, the strength of humanity is collaboration.
But because
like the Molemen,
what Sarah didn't make sense, right?
Yeah.
Then I was like, she's avenging her best friend, and I could see something in that because it was a recent
Hoops out.
Yeah, it was a recent thing. Like, her best friend had literally just died.
Girls take their hoop earrings out when they're going to fight.
She just had to murder her best friend because Juno had like left her for dead, and she was like, please kill me. And that's a way more active role in that loss. She was the one that had to knock back out because of what Juno did. So all that rage and anger of like the position you put me in is coursing through her. And also she's like, I've just lost my best friend. Like that lemon joke was hilarious. Like I'm never gonna hear humor like that again.
Right.
I'd be raging like all the laughs have died now that Becca's gone.
What do we think in conclusion?
Yeah, so what do we think in conclusion, guys? Like,
I think this film has actually got a lot to talk about.
I think I'm surprised. I think I was always aware of some artfulness to this film, and I think there is definitely some in there.
We've reviewed worse, or we've chatted about worse, definitely.
For sure, yeah. I'm glad. I think after we came away from watching the first time, Connor, I was like,
is this Dark Encounter?
Is this just Dark Encounter all over again? But no, I knew I had a hunch about this film. I thought that there was something interesting about it. And I think we managed to highlight quite a few things that were interesting.
On a scale of Dark Encounter to Host, where is this?
Which I was absent for. Oh, which we'll never talk about. I want to talk about why I was absent.
Have you still not seen it?
No.
Oh, you got to watch Host. It's so good. On a scale of Dark Encounter to, I don't know, what was another one we loved?
Fuck, I can't remember. Babadook.
Where is this?
Well, we haven't done Babadook.
We did. We definitely did Babadook. Yeah.
Did we? I don't think we did.
We did it with Matt.
Were you absent?
Were you absent or were you
No,
here?
I was there. I was there for the one with Matt.
Yeah.
Just drunk?
Just pass me by that one.
Just mole man.
Just mole man. Pure
Can't
mole
even
man.
see what's right in front of you.
Anyway.
I think this is a solid 6.5 out of 10.
Same, yeah.
I reckon.
It's fun, and
Be
I
a
was
different
really
thing
gripped
if it was
during
made today, perhaps, hopefully. Yeah. But for the time, if you think of the sort of horror landscape at that time,
I think it's just a
at least in this
frustrating film.
country.
How
It's a
would you
frustrating film
fix
because you could
it?
fix it.
How would I fix it? I probably wouldn't have done the Mole Man thing at all.
Yeah,
to
I
be
don't
honest.
think I would do
I
that.
probably would have had this just be a film about people who go spelunking and then it goes horribly wrong.
What about
Tight
just
spaces.
the one little like glimpse or the noises? Like, would you even do that? Or
What do you mean?
when they sort of hear the chattering of the mole men before they see them, and then when Sarah like sees one at a distance,
Yeah.
would you do that, or would you just do no mole
I don't
men?
know, like maybe, but it wouldn't be. Oh, I don't know. Maybe it wouldn't be a main part of the film. Maybe it would be. I would be more interested in seeing how that would affect the relationships between the.
Exactly.
characters.
It should have been
because
something to do with their
everyone's saying
psychology.
to Sarah like just get over
Should we
it. You're
cut
hallucinating.
Sarah's hallucinating? Should we cut her loose? Should
That's
we?
so good because
Yeah.
that connects up with the like
Overarching
Juno's
themes. Yeah.
intention, which is like
think-
anything you've picked up on with your
Yeah.
sentences, just get over you're making it up, because she would have like, you know, stock in that with wanting
Exactly.
her to not know.
I'm
about
as
their
guilty of
affair.
anyone as being distracted by the mole men, because I was the one who told you, Connor, that
all
this
about
movie's
mole
about
men.
mole men.
Yeah.
But I didn't
Maybe-
realize it was actually about people.
Maybe we're falling into a trap by just
mole man trap.
focusing on the mole
man
men
trap.
and continuing the conversation about men
It's not about
when we
mole
should be
men.
talking about the women.
Yeah,
Not just the
women.
mole men. You know, it's not all about the mole men.
Well, on that note, I believe that is probably time.
Oh,
Sure.
it's beyond time.
Oh God,
This
okay.
is the longest episode we've ever done.
Grand.
We've done,
well,
like, a second
thanks
ending.
y'all for joining us for another episode. An extra
Thank
long
you
one
so
at that.
much. Hope
I
you're
know.
still listening.
I know that people do listen to this whole
Really?
thing. Yeah.
Thanks
That
for that.
surprises me.
That's really good of you. Thank you. Reach out to us on Twitter if you want.
Please do reach out
Yeah.
to us on
Become
Twitter.
suddenly very active on
We're
Twitter. so-
tweeting.
We tweet now.
We tweet, but we don't really
10%
like
extra
Twitter as a whole. But we got to talk to you all. Like, you know, we got to keep in touch.
We gotta keep in touch.
And that's
Yeah,
it.
so don't forget to like and subscribe. Or if you're watching us, if you're listening to us on YouTube, subscribe on Apple
Again,
Podcasts.
Yeah.
make a suggestion.
Make
If there's
a
a movie
suggestion.
you want us to
Give
talk
us
about.
a rating. I'm told by other podcasters that that's an important thing. So
Okay, rate us. Yeah.
Rate us 5. Why not?
Yeah.
Do it.
Have a nice night.
We love you. Keep
Bye.
on spoken in the free world.